Hi everyone, I am recording my video response to prompt 1, and the first prompt was, as an interdisciplinary field, SLA has always incorporated or adapted concepts and findings from other fields. Which field do you currently believe SLA should most closely ally with in order to produce the most useful findings in the future? How so? In our reading, I felt like there was a lot of different points that they made that can lend themselves to partnering with different fields to look at second language acquisition. In chapter 4, they talked about the example about Wes and how he was first language was Japanese and second language was English when he moved to Hawaii. So I think pairing with Anthropology, for example, and how they study different cultures through the lens of time, as well as comparing them to other cultures, would be really influential in second language acquisition research. They talk about Wes and his indirect politeness, how he applied that to his second language acquisition when he was giving requests or hints or making suggestions that were indirect in nature, like when he said maybe curtain for maybe you should open the curtain, or when he suggested you like this chair for please move over. I think studying how different cultures use language differently and how that will transfer into learning a second language would be something that would be interesting to note. On that same note, second language acquisition research can build from sociologists and their study of social communication and social relationships between a group of people and how that impacts their communication development and how that would then influence learning a second language that could be in stark contrast to their first language. I also, in chapter 4, made note again about Wes and the study of second language acquisition and how they could partner with linguists and linguistics. There's multiple mentions over the course of that chapter about morphosyntax and that development and its influence from L1 to L2. Again, looking at Wes, where he used those temporal markers through adverbs rather than the different verb tenses to mark time when he was conversing with other people. So they marked time for him instead of using like the past tense ed or the past tense ed or the other forms of past tense verbs to mark time. So it would give the listener or his conversational partner context enough to know that he was talking about something that happened before without using those different verb tenses. Again, building on the field of linguistics, linguists study morphology, syntax, semantics, and I think looking at the developmental trajectory of how you learn different languages over time and how that will influence how you learn a second language. I'm not sure that all languages are learned through the same trajectory of skills like English is, and the same trajectory of like Brown's morphemes and which morphological development comes before others, like in English. On that same note, I think the best, not the best, I think the field that would partner with SLA that would produce the most useful findings would probably be speech-language pathology, since we do study the development of language and we can kind of wrap linguists and speech all put together. They do mention in the book also the development of different speech sounds and how that influences learning a second language too, which is something that SLPs work on as well. So I think that would bring forth a lot of really rich content in partnering together on how second language acquisition develops over time when you have different first languages. An example of a professional or personal experience directly related to this is at my school this past year. I have partnered with Dr. Restrepo. She is a ASU faculty in the speech department, and she has developed a screening tool for ELL students on if the errors that you see or the things in their language development that appear atypical, if that is as a result of being an English language learner, or if that is leaning more towards a language disorder or delay. So I've gotten to partner with her on developing that with one of her graduate students, which has been pretty cool. So we get to look at those kids that are English language learners or learning a second language, and being able to determine if what we're looking at is something related to that second language development or something related to a disorder or delay. Same thing is another research project that we did this year with her doctoral student is looking at the Azella test that we do in Arizona for English language learners, and comparing proficiency levels on the Azella test versus like a language assessment like the BESA, which is the bilingual English-Spanish assessment, and seeing where kids fall in their level of proficiency, looking at taking into consideration bilingual language development versus the Azella, which is the state test. And we have found there's quite a few kids that are testing proficient on the BESA, but not testing proficient on the Azella. And so now we can kind of further our research more and dive a little bit deeper into why that might be happening. So it's been really fascinating to see partnering with Dr. Restrepo and her strong passion for English language learners and second language acquisition, and what we can do as speech pathologists to support them, accurately identify them, accurately provide interventions for them, and partner with teachers to see how we can best support them in the classroom. I thought this was a really interesting chapters and prompt, so I was excited this was our first one. Let me know what you guys think.